Switch. But we need to be respectful and put Haley in the driver's seat over here. And then the top spot where I belong. Mid-Atlantic Haley.
Would you fire me if I acted like that?
That's a
like
good question.
now. Like I just suddenly switched and I started acting like that.
So you just had a Mid-Atlantic accent and it's like you just had a stroke or something, but it just came across you just being a hoity, just terrible person all of a sudden?
I just got a concussion and then woke up and I was just like an annoying British asshole.
It's a great question. It's like, what if someone just changes night and day? Like Jeffem has an epiphany and he just turns into a complete monster all of a sudden. Like, what do you do with that? Employer is a stretch because it's a contract thing, but like, if you are an employer, like, what do you do if someone's just like, you know what, from now on, I suck?
I mean, I feel like that probably happens way more often than we give it credit for. We're just probably lucky that we've never been in a situation where you have to fire someone like that.
Yeah, I guess how often do people really change? You know, it's like
not that much.
What, like having a crappy partner could probably influence them in some way. Strokes.
That's true.
What else you got? Near-death experiences.
Concussion, as I said.
Ooh, concussion. Yeah, coconut on the head. That type of thing. Coconut accident. They eat coconut. They become an asshole. Speaking of which, let me eat this coconut. No, let me get this ready. We're thinking about making this a super interactive version of the episode. So let me see what this would actually look like.
Oh, you're doing like two different
the layouts, yeah. So
scenes.
Brink. Welcome everybody.
Hanson reviews Disneyland. Interesting.
I didn't really know. Gotta get those clicks, Haley. I don't know. Yeah, super interactive. Welcome if you're watching the video version of this. So I have our Slack up. It kind of freaks me out because I'm like, is there anything that people shouldn't see in this Slack? And I don't think so.
No.
I think it's fine.
Go to our chat where we just talk about how I hate Chadley and you defend him. And
right.
It'll be like intermittent business stuff, but mostly the Chadley stuff.
It's really an aggressive amount of Chadley stuff. All right. I think that's a pretty good.
I'm in chapter 12, by the way. I feel like I'm getting very close to the end.
Ooh, nice. What's chapter 12 like? I can never keep it straight.
We came back to the Golden Saucer and one party member was a big jerk.
Yeah. Did that strike you as obvious? What was your read on?
Yeah, it was so obvious. Okay, like remember when we were talking and I was like, hello, why are we all trusting this? Like, let's be a little bit. And like the Moogle has a zipper on his back. Like, I'm just supposed to ignore that? Is he in a costume? Is he even a Moogle?
I like that you're being cagey, even though you say the Moogle. It could be any character that's part Moogle.
Oops, I didn't think of that. And also their dress they had on was so
Moogle.
Part of the, I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
This is part of the Moogle.
Yeah, that entire thing just struck me as like, I really like that idea of when that happens, but it's just like, it happens so many times in media where I just want everyone to take a pause and be like, wait, what is actually going, can we just stop and talk about this a little bit? Like, this does not really make any sense.
Can we ask one question?
Right. I know you're going for your emotional beats, but it's just confusing the way you're trying to demonstrate it now to have all the characters be like, well, that was that. Moving on. It's like, wait, what? How? Why?
I cannot believe it.
Right.
It's like, oh, you guys.
Well, stick with it. You're getting there. You're certainly getting there. All right. Does this?
I don't know what I'm going to play after. It's been my nighttime game for so long. I've had 2 Yakuzas remaking this to be my bedtime games, and now I feel like I have nothing coming up.
Well, I guess you'll just never be able to go to sleep.
Or I'll go to sleep way earlier.
All right. Continue to not mind me while I try to get this layout.
That looks good.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, you can see it. I also wanted to have.
Michael wants me to play Crisis Core, but I'm like, I don't know.
All right. Hot
I think
Twitch
that
exclusive.
might be my limit.
Yeah, that might be your limit. That's fair. But also, stay tuned. It's a long time until part 3 of the remake, if you catch my drift. Winky winky in terms of Deepest Dives. But who knows if we'd ever actually do it. Let's see.
Yeah.
I also wanted to have this up. Hello.
Crisis Core is weird. It's a star killer.
In a good way? Let me scroll down. It's more fun if I go for really old questions, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'll have to... Bear
and breakfast.
Oh, this seems lovely.
I was meant to play that game.
Yeah, I guess it wasn't supposed to be great. All right, I'll do this on the fly. Though. It does look so cute. All right, hello everybody on Twitch. Let me actually pull you up here a little bit. Oh, hello. Haley, I'm a guest on this one, but I'm running the tech, and I feel like I'm dragging you down. I feel like I'm not ready.
Oh, we're on time. We're only 1 minute late.
Okay, all right. I guess that's fair. Let me get...
I have to do more contract drafting after this, so if anything, this is a nice little break, I'm fine to prolong it.
And that's just slowly filling out forms? Do you have like a template that you do it for?
No, it's not filling out forms. It's someone is about to sign a contract, and I'm reading it for them to make sure it's good for them too. So I'm changing a bunch of stuff. But you know what's funny with this contract review is the other side left all their comments in by mistake, so I could see what they all were talking about.
Oh my god, that's so good.
Yep. So I'm gonna, when I send it back, I'm not gonna delete their comments. I'll leave it in. So they'll probably get it back, look at my red line, and go, "Oh no, she just saw all their comments." Like at one point, I saw like they wrote on one thing like, "I'm gonna give them 2 days to get the funds together, but realistically, like it probably could take longer." And I changed it to 5 days. I was like, "Boop, you just messed up."
God,
yeah, well, it's like you just said in this comment that it takes longer, so I'm asking for 5 days. They messed up. They shouldn't have done that.
That's a Matlock level
twist.
But
I'm not going to pretend I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend I don't see them.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, the best was one time I was trying to line up something with a developer, and the PR person I'm friendly with. I didn't think I was this friendly with, but they like they responded to my email. They're like, "Yeah, here's what the developer says about that," and just he shared like the entire exchange about like, "Here's why your ask is really difficult," and like all of their internal communications about this request for an interview and stuff. And it's like, this is too much information, but I guess everybody benefits from it, so it's okay. But
do you think they didn't? Do you think they didn't mean to send the chain?
I don't know.
And they just meant to send the top.
I really don't know. I would love to figure
I'm terrified of chain forwarding. I'm terrified. I feel like I still don't understand it fully. Like people will be talking, there'll be like the main email chain, like when I do M&A deals, and it's like 20 people on it. And then people split off and have internal combos on the same chain, but you can just limit who sees it. But what if I go to forward something and it's connected to the thing, and we're talking about like, no, tell them no on that and yes on this and no, like it's confidential, like could affect the deal stuff. And like, what if I forward, they're like, "Oh yeah, send that along to the other side," and it's it just like terrifies me. So I always start a fresh email.
Yep.
Whenever someone's like, "Send that along," I'll copy paste it into a new email. I'm too scared.
Absolutely smart. Absolutely smart. That's the way I like to describe you. Okay, great. It's weird because I'm running the tech stuff, so I'm going to be more aggressive than ever in accidentally hosting this thing. But please, you take it away whenever you're ready.
That's fine. Let's start it. If anything, that could have been an anecdote in bonus pod. You know what I mean? That's what's weird about
that was bonus pod material. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to Bonus Pod, the companion podcast of the Min-Max Show. My name's Haley McLean. I'm burnt really bad. I went in the sun one time and now I'm red and I hurt all over.
So
and I'm joined today.
It's not important who you're joined by. Hi, I'm Ben Hanson. You seem so calm. Is it because your mouth is so burned so you can't be too smiley or obnoxious on this episode? You have to keep it subdued? Or otherwise...
My shoulders.
Oh.
My shoulders are like bright red and I keep... I want to say Aloy because
yeah, no, it's Aloy. You rub Aloy on your body and she's all slimy and gross and her voice acting's weird. She's really breathy.
Shoulders. But I always keep it in the fridge, even in the winter, all year long, because the moment you need it cold, it won't be in the fridge. So like every day I look at that Aloy and I think to myself, oh, it's December. Why is this in my fridge? It's taking up prime time milk spot. But I'm like, nope, someday in the summer I'm gonna want that ice cold aloe, and it hits so good to put that on.
And is it like
highly recommend?
It's just like in a tube, your aloe?
A big like
oh, that's
tube.
Nice. I have such vivid memories because we always had like an aloe plant around the house, and it was kind of cool because we had like a greenhouse. We had like multiple greenhouses, I guess, growing up. But we had like the aloe plant, so every time I would get burned or anything, which would happen all the time, it'd be like a really visceral thing. I'm like, all right, now we got to slice open the aloe plant and rub this magical plant on you. And I remember it was like a couple years ago. I know we start out on Bonus Pod often talking about terrible injuries, so I won't go into details, but I got a bad burn, very bad, and it was extremely painful. But it was so nice to have like an aloe plant. My parents were like, well, run home and get the aloe plant. It'll save you. It feels like it's like a sentient thing, like Little Shop of Horrors. It's so nice to have like another life form help you out instead of just some crap in a tube or something, which is just the same extract. I'm not trying to be too hoity-toity about it.
Have you used aloe like from a tube after that? And could you say one worked better than the other? Like, would me just getting an aloe plant be better than
I think
buying a tube?
Why doesn't everybody have an aloe plant? If you could have like an ibuprofen plant in your house, wouldn't that be cooler?
I need an Ativan plant.
Yeah.
And an ibuprofen plant. I mean, I just started growing an herb garden for the first time because I finally have room. Like we moved to a new place and we have a deck, and it came with like a big planter thing. And my landlord was like, yeah, you can just use that and do whatever you want. And I was like, oh my God, herbs. Like I always want, like, you always don't want the full, you go to buy at the grocery store, they're either giving you 8 million pieces or a stock. And you're like, I need like 3 pieces, but why? I don't want to spend $5 on a bunch of cilantro. I want to spend $0. And they're starting to grow now. And the other day I was making it like tacos, and I was like, oh my God. And I went out and just pulled some cilantro, and it was like the first time I've ever gotten to just do that myself. And I was like ready to move to the like a farm. I was like, this is life. This is living. Why doesn't everyone just grow plants? And it's like, oh, because no one has room to.
Do you ever worry?
So my old place, I had no sunlight. Everything died. I was a plant killer.
Do you ever worry about what your ancestors would be most horrified about? Like, not just you in particular, but us as a society. Like, if they just, I think if, my great grandpa saw me go about my day, he would just never stop vomiting. He'd be so horrified.
Like, I had this exact thought because I was at Home Depot, and we just got a bunch of like planters to get more privacy on our deck, and also so Sable can go out and she won't get out. So it's like 7 of those tall evergreen style plants, and they're in these tall planters, but they're kind of not the best built. So we're like, we should get some rocks to put them in the bottom of the planter. And when we were at Home Depot, I was looking at the bags of rocks, and they weren't expensive. They're like $4 for like a massive bag. But I was like, this is freaking stupid. I could just go outside and get some rocks, but like that's inconvenient. I feel like if you could look at the past, or if like an alien was looking down at me in that moment, just being like, the human's buying rocks. They're outside. What does she do? It was just a weird, why am I doing this? I'm just lazy moment. But buying rocks felt very stupid, and they weren't even pretty. It wasn't like little jade. It was just like gross, like concretey rocks in a bag.
Well, what's your, if you don't get it there, pop quiz, where are you going to get rocks? It's like, I just go and dig up a park and then sift through and find rocks. Or I go to a beach with a bunch of rocks. Beach? I'm trying to think.
Yeah, there's a lot of beach around here that just have a million rocks. So I could just, like, it would just be carrying the rocks to my car is the $4 worth that work?
Yeah.
And like, probably it's worth it to just spend the $4 and the rocks are right here. I don't have to drive to the beach and stuff. It just felt super stupid. Yeah. I felt dumb. Putting those in my cart.
I hear you completely. Like, since buying the house, we've been doing a lot more handy projects than ever. And like, my dad's extremely handy. He's built several houses. And so like, I grew up around a lot of construction, and it's just, it's one of those things I know in my core, I have no interest in this, and I'm completely out of my element, and I'm always really self-conscious about it, yada, yada, yada. But even now, like, starting to do a couple more projects of like, we're going to make a little patio in the backyard. And just that's terrifying, but I think I can handle that. I'm not in physical danger. I don't have to man a chainsaw or something. But also just like finishing off the basement, because like my dad and my brother-in-law did a lot of work for like putting up walls and stuff, which is unbelievable. And now we've just been painting over the weekend. But I still have all of these moments of just like, God, why am I so uncomfortable doing these physical projects around the house? Why do I feel so terrible? It's like, oh, I just never do it. And now I look at every project that everybody else does in the world, or I've been watching a lot of like home building shows, and I just study them. I'm like, can you imagine having the muscle memory for putting up a wall? I cannot fathom not looking like an a-hole doing these types of activities, because it's just, I feel so slow and just terrible about my life every time I try anything like this. And I know I'm a complete wimp, and you're judging us listening. I hear you out there. I feel your ears.
Yeah, my dad was a carpenter when we were little, like, and then he like, it was what he did to pay his way through dental school, was like did carpentry jobs. So we had a ton of woodworking equipment in our basement and stuff growing up. That was his workshop. And he would just like, yeah, like it's muscle memory. He's used those tools 1,000 times, and it's also math. Everyone tries to pretend it's not math, but you have to do so much math to build anything. And there's always things you can't account for that you only learn when you make 5 mistakes in a row. It's like, well, did you use the concrete brackets? And you're like, what are those? It's like, oh, it's gonna fall down. Like how do you know that? There's no place to learn all that. I feel like you have to work with somebody who's good at it for a year, and then you can know anything.
Right. But then what's the alternative is what I keep thinking about. Like, do I just die never learning how to be handy? Or do I just accelerate in a couple key areas, get by, and then call it a life? I don't know. Like, a part of me thinks, oh, wouldn't it be fun to lean into it and to get really handy with all this stuff? And it couldn't be that hard to just learn how to do everything involved in a house, right? YouTube's right there. I don't know.
I guess it is. We really have no excuse with YouTube existing. Like when our parents were young, it's like, how did you learn that? Literally how? Now we can just, I YouTube everything to learn how to do anything. It's like, oh, my vacuum's broken. I just YouTube my vacuum's name, issue with X, and there's a video that's like, if your thing is doing this, use this. I can't do anything without watching someone else do it first. Yeah. How did people live?
How did you live? If you're a time traveler, tell us how you lived. But for an update, to get really businessy, before we dive into the weeds of fun, I love this community for a bunch of reasons. One of them is, I'm trying to think of what an example is. Oh, like when over the 4th of July, where it's like, oh, I don't think we can make New Show Plus work this week, so due to the holiday, we're skipping it. I didn't see one comment that was negative about it. I didn't see one like, oh, they're really phoning it in. I didn't see any of that. And it's not fair to be like, this community is great because we can be lazy around them. But no, I love people being relaxed about it. So where I'm going with this is like, I moved in a little while ago, and we're finishing off the basement, and then that's where the MinMax studio is going to be, the new studio space. And I haven't seen one comment about like, where the hell is that studio? And I feel that in my head. I'm really worried about that. And the fact that everybody just seems chill, like, it's done when it's done. Don't be lazy. It's like, it seems like that's the sentiment, even though nobody's expressing that sentiment. And I greatly appreciate just like that trust that there is a MinMax studio coming. It's just taking a little bit longer than we expected to finish off that entire space before then we do the whole technical aspect of it, which will be a whole thing. But oh, hang on. Chat's turning quickly. They're outraged apparently by the lack of studio. Sorry.
One comment in chat is
yeah, shut it down. Like, oh, shut it down. I gotta go. I can't handle that kind of negativity. No. So
do you think that's because you're so communicative? Like I saw you posting in, I think it was Backstage Pass, like painting the floor. You're like, it's on, it's coming in. Like it's not. You don't go radio silent. You provide updates. So I think that's probably a big part of it too.
I guess so. Yeah. So we posted a picture of painting the backdrop wall for the new studio space. If you want to get a real teaser and throw that $10 here.
Floor. Why did my brain think that?
Well, that's what. I'm telling you, I'm bad at painting. I don't know the difference between these things in a house, Haley. I don't know what's happening.
Florida wall.
Yeah. So we're at a point of the walls are painted. Next, it's carpeting. And then after carpeting, it's the trim. And then after that, then it's moving everything down there, like all the tech, and then hooking all that up and stuff. So if I had to guess, I'd say a month. There's one kind of prop that's still under construction as well that we want to have in there and stuff like that. So that'll be a rough ballpark for, a big prop. It'll be neat. Hopefully, we'll see. So that's what's going on here. But how are you, Haley? You're burned and you're on a boat all weekend?
Yeah, I was out in Mahone Bay, which is like on the South Shore of Nova Scotia. It was so hot this weekend. But what's funny about where we live now is we have like a huge influx of great white sharks that come here now because
What?
seals are migrating here. Yeah, so there's like a tracking app and you can track like, for every one shark with a tag on it, there's probably 100 without one. So like there's who actually knows where they all are. But there's a bunch of scientists that have moved here now to work with sharks that are just out tracking sharks and like putting tags on them. And Shark Week, like the people that make Shark Week are like filming here and like going around to all the South Shore places because that's how many sharks are here.
Whoa.
So
do you see them?
We used to swim a lot more. Well, we do. We swim near docks and stuff, but like we used to go out on the boat, like kind of in the middle of the water and put the anchor down and swim like a few years ago. And now I feel like I would never do that. How many sharks are here now?
Really? But you know the numbers.
Yeah.
You know it's fine. You know it's safe.
Listen though, but like it's because they're only here because the seals are here.
Yeah.
Like that's why the sharks moved here because it's a little bit too cold for them normally. Like they don't normally come to this cold water. It's not as deep as it could be other places, but the seals have migrated here because they're fine with warmer water and stuff. So when we're out on the boat, we see 10 to 20 seals per boat trip. Like it's so many seals. And
that's so cool though.
If their prey is there, they're around. Like that's just the natural instinct. And they're all the seals are on rocks trying to get away from the water and stuff, which also is an indicator that some of them have been killed recently in the vicinity if they're nervous. It was funny one year, like last year, my sister does this bit where she puts on this full black wetsuit and pretends to be a SeaWorld employee and just like runs around and jumps off the boat and gives random fake whales names and jumps in, pretends to swim with them. It's a whole thing. She's really funny. My sister's way funnier than me. You'd love her.
Sounds like a great bit.
But the point of the story being, she was in a full black suit, flopping around like crazy, like AKA looking like a seal. Because the only time sharks usually attack humans is if they think you're a seal, because they think our meat is gross. So they'll bite you and go ew and like swim away. That's why usually people lose a limb and not like be completely eaten by a shark. So Emma was flopping around in her wetsuit looking like a seal all day. And then that was when they first were instigating the app, and we went on the app and we looked where we were the day before, and there was a great white shark tracked in our location within 5 kilometers.
Whoa. But hang on, she's flopping around like a seal.
A huge one. Like
and she's in the water
long.
doing this bit?
Yes, yeah.
That's like the dumbest idea.
She's like, everyone, let's go, like jumping in the water, and like she puts on the SeaWorld music on the speaker of the boat.
Oh my
it's like
God.
dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun. She's like doing jumps and shit. And yeah, she has not done that routine since, because now she's so scared a shark's gonna think she's a seal.
Have you seen her recently?
Yeah, saw her yesterday.
Okay. So I want to make sure that a shark hasn't like followed her home. Like,
no.
Okay, like broke into a window while she was sleeping or anything like that. Just want to make sure she's okay.
Well, we were swimming off a dock, which is like 8 feet deep. Like a shark couldn't even turn around. And she was like, do you think they ever could come up here? And I was like, Emma, they can't even turn here. Like they can't even swim up to this far. You're totally fine. And she used to be swimming out to the boat and swim back. And she's a big swimmer, and she's too scared now. Like that's how many sharks are here. It's not just like
that's so cool.
Oh, isn't it funny if someone saw one? There's like thousands out in our waters right now. It's weird.
I wish we had more cool wildlife in Minnesota, because seals and sharks, that's awesome. It's like we talk about mosquitoes a lot. We have like a bunch of merch at the airport for like, black bears and moose. But it's like, those are only up north. Who are we kidding? Come on. And then like around the cities.
Are there any moose in Minnesota? Yeah,
in Minnesota, yeah, for sure, up north.
Yeah.
But Minneapolis, it's like super, super rare to have like at this level latitude. What is this? To have like a moose sighting or something like that. But they're so cool. I wish they're around more, even though they're kind of scary. But Haley, I was just in a place with a bunch of wildlife. You wouldn't believe it.
Like what? Like ducks and dogs and mice?
That's right, Haley, the greatest place on earth, Disneyland. Yeah, I guess that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. But yeah, so it was last week. I think I mentioned on the podcast, like I'm going on a mysterious preview trip. That preview trip was for Star Wars Outlaws. Ubisoft was, this is a whole can of worms, and we can talk about this if you want to, but it's one of those things of like, Ubisoft sends out an email like, hey, do you want to come play Star Wars Outlaws? Also, that'll be on Thursday. You'll get to play a lot of the game. And then on Friday, we'll have a VIP ticket to Disneyland for you. And
That's
a
crazy.
tour of the Star Wars Galaxy's Edge from one of the Imagineers at Disney. And it's like, look, I understand you're trying to get us to really like Star Wars Outlaws, but like, yeah, okay, I can't say no to that. Like, I've never been to Disneyland. I've been to Tokyo Disney for one day.
Ooh.
Yeah, but I've never been to Disneyland or Disney World. And it's like, I'm an animation history geek. And it's like, all right, if I got
Are you a Disney adult?
It's debatable. It's debatable, Haley. I don't like that term because in my mind that means like spending a crap ton of money on Disney stuff, which I don't want to do any of that. I'm not going to buy any big Disney merch. Yes, I have like a Toy Story doll, a little black and white Woody that's kind of cool. And yes, I'm obsessed with Pixar and Disney animated movies. And yes, during karaoke, I sing a lot of them.
Of Mickey ears.
No.
Like the park that they sell. Okay, see, you're fine then.
It's really tough though. Like, I'm a Disney adult in terms of my love and enthusiasm for like the animated movies and the history of the park, but if it costs money in any way, I don't want anything to do with it, and I'm not gonna be one of those weird merch people, I guess. Not that there's anything wrong with being a Disney adult. You're just worse people, I think, overall. So I really struggle with that, where it's like sometimes I feel like
catching absolute strays.
No, but like I feel like I get it. Like at karaoke, it's like, oh, if someone is on board for singing Disney songs, like I will sing Disney songs all night. This would be a great time. But it's like, hey, I'm not one of those Disney adults. Come on, I don't want to be a weirdo here. So it just setting the scene a little bit. Like, obviously, Ubisoft's goal is to make us really enthusiastic about Star Wars right before Star Wars Outlaws comes out. Like, that is the goal. Preview events are always weird in that sense of like, how much of an impact are they having on you and your thoughts on the game? And that's a totally fair debate, because I think everyone's very confident being like, that had zero impact on my opinion on the game. And I still, a recent example is, I think of how much I loved Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope. Like, that was my fourth favorite game from a couple years ago. Like, I really love that game a lot. And it's like, well, I went on that preview trip for it. And it's not like, I really appreciate Ubisoft flying us out to SF, and therefore I'm artificially bumping it up on the list. But it is that matter of like, you fly out for an event for that Mario and Rabbids game. You spend 3 hours playing the game in like a really focused environment. You get to see the developers, you meet the developers a little bit. Like, you are way too confident if you say that had no bearing on my attitude when I started playing that game at home. Like, of course it does, But the best we can do is be as honest as we can be. Now, here's the catch. I cannot talk about my opinions on Star Wars Outlaws at all. If you've checked out previous episodes of the Min-Max Show podcast, you heard my thoughts on the section that I played at SGF, but everything's under embargo for my thoughts on what I played during this preview event. We'll be talking about it on a future episode of the Min-Max Show podcast, so I'm not biting my tongue artificially here, but there's an embargo that has to lift before I can share with you what I think about Star Wars Outlaws and this new chunk that I got to play and all that stuff. But is that too much of a preamble? The point is, we got to go to Disneyland on Friday, and it was ridiculous. Like, it's just, it was being spoiled to a gross degree. And so we were there with
a VIP trip to Disney like?
Oh
the
my
lines
God.
are so brutal.
Oh my God.
Did you have to skip the lines?
Yes, it was ridiculous. And so it was like a handful of press out there. Is press from all over the world, which was nice to meet, some folks that listen to us from Holland and stuff like that. Where it's like, oh, okay, that's very sweet. It's just cool to be like waiting for the shuttle to bring you back to the hotel or to the preview event and stuff, and start talking to random people. And, I was talking to some guy who works at an outlet in Malaysia for a long time. It's like, oh, I'd love to learn what games press is like in Malaysia. And so it was a cool event. And then when we got to Disneyland, we split up into groups, and we were group 2, which was very fun, by the way, because you get to see
the cool group.
No, you really get to see, like, I'm always wondering, like, how do publishers see us and see the importance of Min-Max? What lump are we in? Are we with a GameSpot? Are we with an Easy Allies? What tier are we at? And so it was like the most naked version of it. Like, all right, the groups for Disneyland: Group 1, IGN, GameSpot, Game Informer. Group 2, Min-Max. Like, okay, I'll take it. And so we were with.
Group 2's good.
Oh, I love Group 2. It was Kate Sanchez from But Why Though, who's been on content. She was on the Deepest Dive for the Thing and on the Min-Max show. Let's see. There's a guy named Hayes from Inverse who's at a ton of preview events, so he was in that group. He's a lot of fun. And then this was wild because it was like the night before. I was planning with Mike Minotti, who does a lot of stuff at Giant Bomb, and he's at GamesBeat, and he is king of the Disney adults. He has declared himself king. In a real Scar like scenario. It was quite twisted. So it, like the day before, it was like, hey, Mike, like he's a huge Disney fan. I've heard him on Giant Bomb talk so much about Disney. And I was like, Mike, I was looking around on YouTube. There's like no footage of you at Disneyland. Like, would you be up for if I paid you like making a tour of Disneyland from a super expert? I think it'd be kind of a fun YouTube video, like my first time and your 1000th time. And he's like, yeah, that totally works. That'd be great. And it just so happened that we were both in Group 2. It's like, okay, this makes this content easy. We can film this from the beginning now. So the way it worked is we got to go there. We had to wake up at like 5:30 in the morning to shuttle over there. But then we got there, got in the group, and we got to go into Galaxy's Edge before it was open. And so like before the entire area was open. So it was awesome. And it was like misting a little bit. And so it was like a kind of a light fog over everything as a little bit of rain was coming down. And it was unbelievable. And so it'll be in the travel log.
Pictures would have slapped with no one else in the background.
Yep. So I got a couple of those. Check out Min-Max's Instagram. Yeah. And so my plan was I had like the wireless mics in my pocket because they said like, hey, you can record this Imagineer if you want to share it on social, yada, yada, yada. But we have somebody from the park who's going to talk about the design of Galaxy's Edge and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. That sounds so great. And so I had the wireless mics ready to go and turn the corner. You see the Millennium Falcon. I got a little choked up. I was really looking forward to seeing it. I'm not Star Wars is really important to me, like a lot of dorks my age, but I'm not like having a TIE fighter hanging in my office level of gaga over Star Wars, but still like seeing that life-size Falcon killed me. It's so good. And so got there, took like 2 pictures. And by that time the Imagineer was already talking. And it was one of those tours where he was talking into a microphone and then everybody had the little headsets that they could tune in for. And it was like a pretty big group of all the press. And so I was like, at that point I couldn't stop him to be like, wait, can you put this wireless mic on? So I missed the opportunity to mic him up for this entire tour. And Disney might have pushed back on that, by the way. It seemed like a pretty cool exclusive thing. I don't know. So that Imagineer walked around for like 30 or 40 minutes. I kind of gave a tour and just filled with little facts about designing Galaxy's Edge. Because have you seen much of this stuff? Have you been to Galaxy's Edge?
I've never been to Disneyland, but my grandparents used to live in Florida. Well, my nan still lives in Florida, and we used to go to Disney World every like 5 years kind of thing growing up. So I've never been to, they had Star Tours, which is like 1/1000th of Galaxy's Edge.
Right.
And that was before they even owned Star Wars too. They just had the licensing, but that's the only Star Wars. And that ride made me barfy as hell. It sucked. I don't know if you've ever been on. Oh no, you haven't been to Disney World.
Well, no,
it's just like a room that goes like this.
And C-3PO's in the front. Yeah, so they have that at Tokyo Disney and Disneyland. They have that Star Tours thing.
Oh, okay.
So I was able to go on that. But it's so funny because going on all the Galaxy's Edge rides, then going Star Tours, like, boo, screw you, C-3PO, this one sucks. It's no good in comparison. But so it's incredible. Like they built up, it's all on this planet that isn't in any of the shows or movies. It's like Batuu, right? But so they built up like this spaceport that has a bunch of shops and stuff like that. But then the wild thing that I didn't really expect is just, and this goes for a lot of Disneyland, is like how much dead space there is, or just kind of room to breathe. Because they wanted to have that spaceport where kind of the First Order and the Stormtroopers and Kylo Ren are storming around all this stuff. But then they wanted to have a Resistance base as well. But they're like, but we can't have the Resistance base right next to the city because they're trying to find the Resistance fighters. They can't be like, oh, I looked out the window and they have a base right there. So they have like a walk through the woods before you get to the Resistance base, which is supposed to be hidden.
That's nice.
It's like 12 acres. And it's just insane because then they have like fake petrified trees in the woods too that represent like the culture and the society that was there before the whole town was built up. Like the amount of just detail they went into in building up this Galaxy's Edge lore, it just blew me away. And there's stuff like, we have Poe Dameron's X-Wing over here, and then we have an A-Wing fighter next to that. And the reason for that is because in the lore, and it's not really acknowledged anywhere, but in the lore, Poe's mom flies an A-Wing. She was an old A-Wing pilot, so we wanted to tip the cap to that by putting the A-Wing next to the X-Wing in this corner. And then there's just like, in the cement for Galaxy's Edge on the ground, they have a bunch of droid prints. Like droids kind of ran through it while it was drying is the joke, I guess. It's kind of confusing why.
They're so silly, those droids.
Oh, they're all over the place.
Scamps.
But they have like prints from R2-D2 there. And those are actually like the film version of R2 that they used, probably in the sequel trilogy, right? But they actually brought that specific one out there to leave his prints in the cement at Galaxy's Edge. It was incredible. And they have like, stormtroopers walking around. And I was watching them for so long trying to figure it out because it's like, they sound like canned lines. It's not like there's actors talking underneath it because it sounds really clear and loud.
It's hand signals, right?
How did you know this, Haley? Yes.
Because I think they're hot. And I looked up how they talk.
Wait, you think stormtroopers are hot? What?
Yeah, the ones at Disney parks. Oh my God, they like flirt with you. Like when they're at the Disney World one too, and they'll come up and like flirt with you. They're like, "What are you doing, civilian?" And I'm like, "Hi," and they're just like, "Get over here." And I'm like, "Okay." I was like, "How are they talking to me?" So I looked it up.
Wait, but they're hot. They're Nazis in full mass, but just somebody saying, okay. "What are you doing over here, miss? That's hot." What are you talking about?
In the same way, the Mandalorian is hot, or like.
But he's helping you out.
Master Chief is hot.
No,
it's the mask. It's a helmet. It does it for me. I don't know what to tell you. Helmets do it for me. I don't really care about your backstory. If you're wearing a helmet, you yell at me to go over there. I'll listen to you.
So if like a welder was like, "Get out of my way," you'd be really into it.
I think welder is not quite a mask. See, that has a lift flap, so it ruins the illusion. I can see the chin. Exactly.
Okay, that's smart. I get it. So it's hand signals. They do different hand signals. They have like stormtrooper sign language stuff to go like this. It'll be like, no. But they say so many things. And actually watching what they're doing to trigger those different codes, it's so fascinating. And so that is just the overwhelming thing from all of Disneyland that blew my mind is just having some place where it's fun, it's clean, it's happy, and you know that like a ridiculous amount of thought and care has gone into this place. Like that, it's just a feeling of comfort. It's like, someone's thinking really hard about all these design decisions. Someone's trying to optimize this system for everybody. And it makes you feel good. It's a weird feeling. And like, maybe I can be cynical at times, but I was melted by the end of this Disneyland trip. It's just like, I felt drunk off the IP. Like the amount of songs I had in my head throughout the entire day. Cause we were there, we got there at like 6:30. Something like that in the morning, and then we didn't leave until midnight. Like it was insane.
Wow.
But it just
do you count your steps? Do you have like
I don't.
Tracker?
But Kate Sanchez does from But Why Though, and she kept giving the tally. I don't look at count stepping. So tell me if this is absurd. I think she said it was like 29,000 by the end of the day.
I feel like that's a lot. Like people will strive to get 10. Like they'll go out for runs and stuff to get 10. That's like the goal. My sister and brother both do like try to get 10K a day.
Okay.
But my dad was in California for work and he went to Galaxy's Edge and Disneyland all by himself and he just like took videos. It was very cute. We like watched them all when he came back. I think he said he was at like 45,000 or something insane. He was just puttering all day, going back and forth. But I think the difference with you might be because you got to skip all the lines. You didn't have to do fast pass lanes.
Right.
And that has you walking back and forth the entire park because you'll go, oh, we have a fast pass for the safari, cross the entire park. Oh, we have a fast pass for Avatar, Pandora, all the way back. So he had to do that stuff.
Yep.
Plus, so that might have cut it.
True. And we didn't have the ticket for California Adventure, so this was just Disneyland. And so not having to jump in back and forth between the two parks might be different in California here. But so the VIP aspect of it, which I'm aware, it's stupid and very obnoxious and indulgent.
Kardashian over here.
It feels a little gross. But the tour guide, she was so good. Her name was Jody, and she was awesome. She was like, she knew more about Disney than Mike Minotti. But she also just seemed cool and relatable. And the thing that I loved, like she was like tatted up. She just looked like a cool lady to hang out with. But my favorite part is there was no like song and dance of her like gotta protect the image of Disney. I mean, maybe if we really asked her some dark stuff, it would have gone off the rails. But there's a lot of just like me being like, how does that work? How does this ride work here? What's going on behind the scenes here? And she's like, oh, here's how this works. And she was completely open and felt transparent when Disney feels like a really tight company. And so I was just blown away by all that. But so it was like a VIP tour. And for example, I was like, how much does this cost? If I wanted to rent a VIP tour, what's going on here? And she said, depending on the business of the park and the season and all that stuff, it's between $500 and $800 an hour, and it's a 7-hour minimum to go like get this VIP tour. But it's wild because you just walk up to the line. It's like, okay, VIP tour, here we go. And then you just jump right in. And so getting to hit up like
minimum $3,500.
Oh, there we go.
That's the min.
The thing, I know what the min max is, but I should have asked her like what type of celebrities like she does this for, because I'm sure it's just nonstop stupid rich athletes and stuff like that, right? Or weird people from the press that want to talk to her about video games. But so it was unbelievable because she just, we did like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and I was like, Jody, how many times have you been on this ride? She's like, well, I've been working here for like a decade. So she's like, thousands of times riding Pirates of the Caribbean. And of course she has to be like, and I still love it. I'm like, no, come on. But there were some that...
I have to ask you a specific question about that ride.
Yeah, please.
How good does the water smell in the Pirates of the Caribbean
You're
ride?
A sicko. We got in the park and Mike Minotti is like, people love the smell of this. I was like, kind of just light chlorine.
So good. I go feral. My sister and I love that smell. It is our childhood, that smell. And there's a company that sells candles that it's the Pirates of the Caribbean ride smell, and they cost like $70, and then shipping to Canada was like another $50, and we're like, we can't. But I've been meaning to buy her that candle for a decade. That smell. Oh, we talk about it when we like planning a trip months out. We're like, we're gonna smell the Pirates of the Caribbean ride soon. Like we get dead ass so excited for that.
Can you imagine? And look, this we can keep this family friendly, but can you imagine just a late night with a stormtrooper lighting that Pirates of the Caribbean candle around the bedroom?
Calm down. All right, we gotta keep saying keep it PG, and then you're giving me hypotheticals like that as if I'm not gonna be thirst counseling by myself.
Never thirst counsel by yourself, please. Yeah, so it was unbelievable. And so like we did the Millennium Falcon ride, which is called Smuggler's Run. And she's like, all right, is it anybody's first time at Disneyland? I was like, me. And it's like, all right, you get the prime pilot seat, which was awesome. So I got to drive it. It's like a crew of 6, and you get the engineers and all that stuff, and everybody has their different roles, and you have a big 3D screen in front of you to make it seem like you're flying and stuff. And so I was controlling like the up and down, and then there's another pilot controlling side to side, but I was a terrible pilot. And part of it was, by the end of the ride, I still wasn't sure if the controls were inverted or not, because it's all a little loosey-goosey. I'm like, what level of control do I have here? But like, I had to yell at myself, but it's just a thrill of a lifetime. We're like, we got to jump to warp speed. And then, all right, we got to do it. And I actually have to grab the lever. And so just myself, I have to go punch it. And then like slamming it down, and you look like you're in the cockpit. Like it just killed me. And then everyone was hyping up the Rise of the Resistance ride a lot. That's like the best of the best.
Yeah.
So you've seen videos of this thing?
I think I remember telling you I like to watch ride videos.
Sure.
There's one account that just does 4K like first person perspective rides, and I eat them up. They're so good. So I've watched, and it sucks because then I spoil myself. But like I'm not going to Disneyland for years probably, and I want to know what that ride is. The animatronics are amazing on that ride.
So awesome.
The Kylo Ren one.
Yep.
It's just Kylo Ren is there.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yep. Absolutely. There was I forget if it was that ride or another ride, but there was a while where I was like, there was like an actor up above, and he was like, hey, welcome, yada yada yada. And then he had like a screen, and he was like just rubbing his hand over the screen but not touching it. And I turned to Mike Minotti, and I was like, why isn't he touching the screen? It's like, because he's a robot, dude. Like, he can't touch the screen. He can't interact with those buttons. It's like, what? Like, it fully got me. And so
their animatronics are crazy.
It's bananas. And so we have we have a whole travelogue that's going to be going up probably on Monday the 22nd. And so we'll have an extended version for folks at the $10 tier as well. And that version is going to be over 4 hours of just Mike Minotti's his own VIP tour of Disneyland. But it's a lot of just like, here's the full cut of us going through the Rise of the Resistance ride, which, you know, not to spoil it, but it's just, if you haven't gone on it, it just blows your mind. You think one thing is happening and it's like, okay, let's go aboard this fake spacecraft. Here we go. We're on board the ship. And then they close the door. And then it's like, we're flying into space. So the ship moves a little bit, whatever. They open the same door and suddenly you're in a completely different environment. It's like, wait, we moved? Our physical location was going on. And it's just that trick again and again and again of like, you think you know where you are. And then a door opens and you see the wildest thing that's actually there in the room. It's like, where am I? How is this possible to fully...
And trackless rides are like very in now. Like I feel like Disney's very much leaning towards trackless rides to intensify that immersion, because it's not just like oh, look over there, look there. It's like go right up underneath a freaking robot and you're like, what the hell? It's fun that they're doing that stuff more too.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so we spent so much time at Disneyland walking around, yada yada yada. But like, it's just little things will surprise me. Like, you know, I was filming so much with my phone, and so it's like, well, I have my phone charger, so I'm gonna have to find some place to charge up my phone at a certain point because the battery's dying. And it's like, oh, what are you talking about? You can't charge your phone here. It's like, what do you mean? I'll just find an outlet. They're like, oh no, there are no outlets at Disneyland because they're not safe. Yeah. It's like, what? What kind of hellscape is this? So thankfully, Kate Sanchez had like a little charger. Oh, really?
Yep, they don't want anyone sticking gum anywhere, so you cannot chew gum in any Disney property.
And I guess it was like a recent-ish thing that employees were allowed to have facial hair. You know, it's like there's some real
tattoos and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's the First Order are running it, but they're running a great ship over there. Like it feels incredible. You just feel like, you know, and it's just a small example of it is like we went out to get dinner outside the park, and then we came back in. And we were going to be there until close or like 11:30 or whatever. And it's like, oh, well, we could use like a dessert. I was like, you know what? I really want like a churro or a little bit of ice cream or something. It's like, well, it's getting pretty late. I don't know if they have them open. And then all of us were like, you know what? This is like Mike was separate, so we didn't have the big expert there. We're talking about, it's like, Disney has our back. Like in this situation, they will let us buy a churro somewhere late at night. Like if you crave something, Disney knows it and they focus tested it and they know it, and they will let you have access to whatever you want within reason here. But it was incredible. But the dorky high level takeaway, and this is where we need the community's take, is just the idea of like, what can a independent outlet like MinMax learn from Disneyland?
Oh my God.
Haley, the floor is yours for your 5-minute TED Talk.
Well, have you ever watched Defunctland videos?
Yeah. Yep. I watched the one on the Fast Pass. Yeah.
Yes, that's the exact one I'm thinking about. You think you understand how much effort goes into the things they do in that park, and it's less than 1% of the thought that goes into it. Like, it's insane how much of that experience is completely researched, to the point that, like, have you heard Go Away Green? Have you heard about that color that they use? It's like they did a bunch of testing and they found the exact shade of color that human eyes ignore. And they call it go away green. And all the things they don't want you to look at, like fences that block off access points, new stuff's coming, and there's like walls or whatever, they paint it this color and your brain doesn't notice it. And that's what they do, and it works because you don't know. It's weird. And until you learn that fact, you'll be like, where's the go away green? And you like see it and you'll point it out and spot it. And it's any kind of thing like that, it's every single detail is completely focused in and fine-tuned to make it so when you walk in there, you're like, I'm having fun. I love Disney Incorporated.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is the grossest feeling. Welcome, everybody from Nextlander. Thanks for the raid. We're talking about, I just went to Disneyland for a preview of Star Wars Outlaws and stuff. And so we're talking about what lessons independent outlets like Nextlander and MinMax can learn from a well-oiled machine like Disney. I think there's something there. I think just the iteration is the thing that kills me. I think MinMax has been pretty good about that, of just like, we try stuff. I mean, it's all that New Show Plus is trying stuff every week and then evolving it. But also just like not being afraid to like, all right, this ride isn't working, let's overhaul it. Like, I think there are some lessons in just like focus, care about the customer experience, make sure it's sustainable, and then just iterate, and see where the natural boundaries are. And I guess a lot of that just comes with time of Disneyland being open for all of these decades now, and they get a better sense of here's where the trash can goes. Whereas for an outlet, it's here's the things that make the Discord want to melt down when they start debating this primaries. Not a great place. Yeah. I was thinking maybe too much about it, and maybe just like being a family-friendly outlet like Min-Max is kind of that idea too of like, oh God, I'm not saying we want to become the Disney of Patreon, but it's like clearly Disneyland's doing something right. And I think if you're a company, you're idiotic to not look at them and see what's going on and try and analyze it.
They just employ so many people to think about so many things all the time.
Yep. Just like Min-Max.
Yeah.
Like you're always thinking about the community, Haley.
Yeah, and the trash cans they need, I guess.
Yep, that's right. And the trash cans that they need. Anyways, yeah, but we have a travelogue.
You guys need trash cans.
We have a travelogue coming up probably Monday, with Mike Minotti from Giant Bomb over there. And so I think it'll be fun to have like a recorded document of Mike Minotti's super fandom for Disney and stuff. And like, it's a little bit uncanny. There are moments where like we're going through rides, just like, here's the Peter Pan ride, whatever. But he'll know the line that the animatronic's about to say, so he'll like set them up for it. And it's like, it is a weird level of fandom that hopefully will be fun for folks to watch. Fun. So look forward to that.
What was your favorite ride?
Rise of the Resistance by a mile. And like I do, as a kid, I was a complete wimpo. But I do like scary rides. I like the biggest roller coasters, the fastest drops. I love all that stuff. And so Disneyland has always been like, I don't know, it's a really expensive, crowded place where all the rides suck, was kind of my impression before, even though I'm a big Disney fan, strangely enough. But first of all, we were there like on a Friday, and it was not nearly as crowded as I thought it would be. Like Friday during the summer, I was like, oh, this is like even Galaxy's Edge. Like you can have some time with you and Chewbacca. Like it's not unreasonable. It's not just a huge horde of people at all times, you know?
What about 5 stormtroopers? Can I have any solo time with 5 stormtroopers?
I think you maybe be able to. I'll tell you where the Jedi are if you come over here and let me kiss you. And then there's just red lipstick all over the stormtrooper mask.
I'm like, you want to kiss me? They're like,
hubba. So anyways, but Rise of the Resistance, like, I never thought that I'd be that wooed by a ride. Because in my mind, it's like, I don't know, the bigger the better, the faster the better. But just the level of production and like the storytelling aspect of the ride is really what got me there. And so that's just the best by far. And then I went on this one in Disney Tokyo, and it still rules here in the original, but Space Mountain, I assume that's in the Florida.
Love Space Mountain.
It's so cool. Yeah. Just have like a pitch black coaster that is going, it feels like it's going so fast.
So many people have died on that ride though, more than any other ride, I think.
Really?
Just because it is the only like there's a loop in the one in Florida, I believe. Right.
Yep.
Maybe not. Maybe there is.
I think there is.
You're
we
in
were
pitch black,
about
so
it.
it's
I
hard
think
to
it
tell.
is, yeah.
But I don't know. Another morbid interest is deaths at Disney. My sister and I watch like the videos and stuff. It's like it's because they try to keep it so fine-tuned, right? Like they want no one to die in this. It's a theme park. People are going to die. Like that just it's dangerous. Right. Like that's going to happen.
And I can't believe they paint them green the second they die.
Yeah, the crowd, just the corpse. They're like,
go away, green. Go away, green.
Everyone's like, where did my father go? He just had a heart attack on the Space Mountain. I miss him. But it's just that you can't plan for accidents. But yeah, like listening to those stories is very interesting. Also, how they deal with emergencies in the moment is like how like someone dies, what do they do? And they have like all these. Just the people there are trained to deal with every possible issue. Like someone's on the ground with heat stroke. What does Disney do? Go. It's like take them to tent A and then make sure the medical professional from Squadron B comes over. Like it's so fine tuned.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think of. Like it's worth paying attention to. You know, it's like the gross takeaway is like, oh, I wish Disney designed cities. It's like, well, yeah, it's a little bit different when it's a for-profit thing. But
we're getting to that point soon.
Well, and you know, Disney wanted to in Florida with Epcot and all that stuff. Like, it is a fascinating concept, but save that for the horrific future. But yeah, so I think it was Rise of the Resistance, Space Mountain, number 2, Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, I think, is super fun too. It's so much faster than you think it's going to be. The Indiana Jones.
A lot of similar rides.
I know. I like fast roller coasters, so I had to squeeze as much as I could out of there. Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
I love that ride. It's a little dopey. It was a little maybe overhyped. It's just so bumpy. And then I'd probably go Matterhorn, and then maybe that Smuggler's Run, just for being able to sit in the Falcon. You know, like that's you can't put a price on, you know, pulling that throttle yourself. Like that's just unbelievable. And the worst rides, Buzz Lightyear's Astro Blasters can eat my Astro Blaster.
One sucks.
It sucks so bad. I hate it. It's just like the worst game of laser tag you've ever played. Like, there's no feedback. You just can kind of aim and it takes forever. And I love
and they're like wooden cutouts. They're not even animatronics that much really or anything.
It sucks.
Yeah.
And then the other one was the submarine, like the Finding Nemo themed submarine.
Oh.
It was really a cool idea, and it's like, this looks awesome. I want to see this up close.
Aren't they discontinuing that?
I don't know, but it like
I think it costs them too much money to they're like thinking about getting rid of it.
It's really weird. And I'm not a big claustrophobic person, but it kind of freaked me out. And other people on the ride, I won't name names, were like pretty extremely freaked out by the whole experience. It's like, you know, I know we're just right below the surface, but still they make it seem like you're way underwater, and it's really a weird, gross feeling. But
have you ever been to Universal?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, like I love the quality difference in Universal because I also kind of love Universal sometimes a bit more than Disney, just with how much better their line system is than Disney. Like Disney's really fumbled since their Fast Pass stuff all kind of messed up. If you don't have VIP super mega Ben Hanson access, the lines are like 2 hours long to go on one ride or something. You're like, why am I here? I'm standing in the Florida heat. I want to die, but I flew here from Canada to go on this one ride. I'm obviously going to stand here. Yeah. But Universal has streamlined it a lot, but what I really love about Universal is some of their rides are so ass. Like they got rid of one, but the ET one, it's gone now. But I remember the last time we went to Universal, they still had the ET ride. Dead ass smelled like my friend's basement because the animatronics are covered in like fabric. Yeah. That's from, I would assume, when they first made the ride in like the late 80s or early 90s or something is probably when they made that ride. And the whole time you're going through, you're like, it stinks in here. Like, it's just so hilarious that's what's happening. But then they also have like, you know, the Hulk coaster and the really fun fast ones that Disney never has. So it's also fun to switch the vibes up and go there if you're like, I want to loop to loop and like drop crazy fast.
But even then, I mean, maybe I'm just spoiled by like, I've been in parks in the Midwest and stuff. Because even then, Universal, had some solid rides. Like I love the Mummy there and stuff like that. But compared to even like, you know, in Minnesota, we have a park called Valley Fair. And like, I would take almost any of those rides and those huge roller coasters over any of the rides in Disney in terms of like thrills, you know? Obviously storytelling wise, there isn't a lot going on Wild Thing, the roller coaster, but I love it so much because it's just fun as hell. Do you want to hear
the dark rides have better storytelling, but are literally like nothing happens. You might as well be on an escalator or something. They just have really good stuff to look at.
Yeah, like and Universal, I think the thing that killed me is like, here's another ride where you're putting on 3D glasses and you're sitting in a chair and it moves a little bit. Like that sucks. I'm just kind of getting sick over and over again. Like give me something unique here. That. Yeah, the Jurassic Park ride was great. I think I can't remember. I think I went on it when it was still Jurassic Park and not Jurassic World, I think. But yeah, that was for, I'm trying to remember what the game was. There's some other preview event. Oh, it was Jurassic World Evolution. It was that preview event.
Oh, I love that game.
Yeah, I love it too. Hey, what a coincidence. Let's see, do you want to, since we're deep in the show, do you want to hear about something weird that happened? That I was looking forward to happening just for the sake of curiosity? And this is good bonus pod content. Is I got an email last week from somebody saying they wanted to invest in MinMax. And like, we'll give you a boatload of money and we want to be a silent partner for 50% of the cut moving forward type of thing. I was like, that is weird. But, you know, I was like, hey, I will line up a call and I will talk to you and make sure you're not some scammer. And so I lined up a call with this person on Discord this morning and had a talk with them about it. And just to be clear, we passed, everybody. I told them to stick it. But it was like a fascinating conversation just to be like, what do you think min-max is? What do you want? And they're like, oh, we were looking around on Graphtreon, which is a site where you can chart Patreon growth. And like, we noticed the consistent growth from min-max, and we can have a couple different approaches, but you know, we can give you this big lump sum that we can invest. You can partner with us, and we can like open doors and opportunities for marketing and all this stuff. And it's like, it was a weird thing where, you know, he was very polite and he seemed legit. And then it was interesting just to talk to him about it. And I was like, yeah, just to be frank, like, I don't know why we would. Like, I don't know what the benefit would be.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of it. Like, would a lump sum payment be what min-max needs to grow is the question, right? Which feels like the answer is no.
I wouldn't think so. And even if it's a matter of like, oh, then I could put that in my pocket and pay off the house. Which, I mean, again, it seems like the type of thing you shouldn't talk about, but is it weird to say the numbers? Like, I was fascinated. Like, what do you think it is? And so, like, okay, we'll give you $300,000 for 50% cut moving forward, yada, yada, yada. It's like, okay, that's a mind-boggling amount of money.
If this is too inside baseball, you don't have to answer. But did they want a membership interest in your LLC or a cut of revenue share profits?
Haley, I'm not smart enough to ask. I have no idea. They laid out a bunch of things. They talked about equity a lot. And I said, and I seemed very professional.
So probably they wanted membership interest. They wanted to be a member.
Yeah. I think that's how it worked. Yeah. But it was just like an interesting discussion of like the idea of then being beholden to like investors wanting the number to go up instead of whatever happens with the growth of min-max and stuff like that. Like, that seems like an absolute nightmare. But I just thought it was fascinating that like investors are looking at this level of an outlet to try and dive into, you know? But it was,
they must see as it's a place for growth. I mean, like Patreon as a revenue model is a format that younger, you know, audiences and generations are leaning more towards than buying shares in companies and stuff like that.
Yeah, I guess so. But it's like, I can't imagine money bags out there in the world, like looking at the profit from min-max and being like, if we had a slice of that, we'd be making it rich. And they'd want to balloon us to the size of what? Like, what's the comparison? Like, turn you into IGN or something, you know? It's like, what would that even look like?
Yeah.
So it's
interesting.
It was a strange conversation, but again, very polite. And it's like, oh, we're flexible. If there's ever anything in the future, you know, maybe we can make something work. I don't know. But yeah, this is an interesting idea of like, yeah, what would that look like? You could buy us a office space and then expect our numbers to quadruple over the next 2 years. Like, no, thank you. That doesn't seem like a fair trade.
Yeah, I think maybe in their mind, the revenue would just go towards advertising models that you don't really think align with the min-max anyways.
Right.
Like, because I think you and I talked about that before, is like you could pay for ads on all these social sites to just like shove the TikTok channel vids in people's faces.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily correlate to growth. It just correlates to more views on TikTok. Like a lot of people might not necessarily click through anything, but there are other marketing methods. Like, you know, I'm not thinking that it's just force Facebook users to see more min-max stuff. I'm sure there's other crazy ways to market a Patreon-based gaming channel. I just don't really know of them.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And it's like, you know, I'm not trying to be too down on social media. You know, we post videos on Instagram and TikTok, but I'm still waiting for the day where some new Patreon supporter, because I message every single one and ask them like how you found us. I'm waiting for the day where somebody says TikTok or Instagram. Like, it has not happened yet. Even with your the big blowout content on TikTok from Pal World and your legal expertise, you know, we got like thousands of new followers from that, and still not one person has carried over. And I think it's too tall of an order to be like, okay, did you like this TikTok? Okay, then follow it. And then go find their YouTube. And then if you like their YouTube, then go find their Patreon. Like, that's just too many hoops to expect people to jump through. I think people just see, that's funny, whatever, moving on. Like, it just doesn't happen for people to click through that way.
Yeah, like I can think of a bunch of people that I know on TikTok that I think are funny and on podcasts, but when I think about it, I don't actually follow them. Their content just finds me because it's similar humor to what my algorithm thinks I want.
Right.
Like Brittany Broski, or like there's a new guy that I'm seeing all the place, Caleb something. Like, I think they're freaking hilarious, but I don't actually follow them. They just have such good algorithm maintenance that I see their stuff and I know who they are, but that doesn't give them any money, right? It's just like reverency. But that's not what min-max doesn't need reverency. It's Patreon funded, supported. So you need more than that. Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
It's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, for sure. It's a bizarre, fascinating thing. Disney could teach us something about TikTok. No, there's no fine line we can connect.
Min-Max Plus.
Oh, genius. New Show Plus, please. We already got that covered. I had another topic. Do you want to jump into this? Do you think we have time? How you looking?
Yeah, no, I got time. Let's talk about it.
Okay.
This is a fun thing that people ask about all the time.
Yeah, so we get a lot of people asking, like, hey, what's up with community questions on the Min-Max show? If I submitted one and you guys didn't pick it, should I submit it again? How does this whole process work? And every once in a while we reference it, but I thought it'd be interesting for bonus pod supporters, people who unlock this Patreon exclusive show at the $5 tier every single week coming to you Monday. Haley's the best host. She's got a great rotating panel of cohorts on here. It's the true companion show to the Min-Max show. But this is a nice place to go behind the scenes on a whole bunch of topics, including this whole thing here of showing you exactly how we choose the community questions every week, how the process works. So I can switch if you want to see the video version here. All right, hopefully this isn't too much of a mess to actually. Oh boy. Oh, I'm going to make this look really pretty, and we're going to adjust it as we go. So it's going to be
Love it.
Perfect. Let's see, PC screen, Min-Max stream.
Because I was saying to you, back when I was a listener, I would submit questions, and I always wondered, like, if you just looked at one, you're like, dumb, good, dumb, good. Like how it worked.
No, I certainly don't do that. No, we appreciate all of them. They're all beautiful in their own way. Let me make
Honestly, I feel like we could have a whole month where all we do is community question with all the ones that get skipped that like I'll thumbs up, but not enough other people thumbs up. Anyways, I'm skipping ahead to how the sausage is made.
Let's get into the sausage. Here we go. So basic idea is if you're a Patreon supporter at any tier, even the $2 tier, you can jump in on Patreon, submit a question for us for the podcast. So this is what those posts look like. Here's one from March 5th. Here's one from July 1st. Here's one from February 22nd, right? So in that, we also list, hey, on this episode, if you have the best question of the week, you can win this prize from I'm 8-Bit. For example, this time it was the Pokemon Johto region vinyl soundtrack, which is so freaking cool. This one apparently did not include that, so that's a bad example. This one also is like, hey, you can win the Bear and Breakfast game on Nintendo Switch thanks to I'm 8-Bit, the I'm 8-Bit exclusive version. But here's a good example, right? So we have this post. We say, hey, here's who's going to be on the podcast episode. Here's what we're going to be covering. Here's when it's airing. There we go. Good job, me from the past. Going live for Backstage Pass viewers at the $10 tier, the 2:30 p.m. Central. But that changes every week, so we always try to be communicative about that. But then, this episode got 97 comments, right? This episode from February, 145 comments. So that's a lot of questions to go through, but it's fun. So Patreon's a little bit clunky as you load all these, but 145 questions, and then we have to narrow that down. So it goes through a couple different passes. This is what my life is just slowly hitting reply. So basically, once I think all of these are submitted, then I copy paste them all. And there's so much here. Let's see. Malcolm Holiday. Hey, Min-Max, if you were a team of Power Rangers, what color would you be? Haley, you want to take that one?
Pink. Because I'm a girl.
Yeah, girls. So we get a lot of good stuff.
Girls.
Let's see. Victor Pham, do you follow an itinerary while you're on vacation or just take the day as it comes? Yep. So I take all of these, copy paste them over to a Word doc for kind of the run of the show. I then edit them down myself of like, well, this one we just answered a couple months ago. This one, I don't really understand what they're asking. This one, it seems like the wrong group for this type of questions. Like, people might be asking about like, hey, let's dive into the details of this first-person shooter, yada, yada, yada. And it's like, the group that's going to be on the podcast this week, doesn't really fit that one. So I'll just go ahead and axe that one so I don't overwhelm everybody. But then the next phase, after I kind of whittle it down to the stuff, they're like, oh, that's good. That's a good contender, is I summarize them and put them in Slack for everybody. So let me bring up Slack. Hopefully this will be okay. Let me arrange this so that it's absolutely perfect for everybody. Don't mind this. And hopefully no wild DMs. Oh, hang on. Look at this. Oh, it's already sized perfectly. Oops. Okay, perfect. Great. So let's see. You get a message from me. Hey, podcast crew. You can see once this is just our Slack channel for planning the podcast, right? Like, hey, this is what we're planning on talking about. Let me know if you want to tweak anything. And I won't reply to this or expand this, but normally someone would be like, oh, also remember I want to talk about this. And then we'll adjust that. But I will take that and be like, all right, tag the people who are going to be on the podcast. Here are some podcast questions for you. So the way it works is depending on the crew that's on, they give a thumbs up emoji to the questions that they're excited to answer is the way we do this. And this way we can save it from a lot of troubles that other podcasts get into as well. And me in the past were like, I don't know, you think this is a good question. You toss it to the group and everyone's like, yeah, I don't know. I think I want to be the Green Ranger. It's like no one really cares. And so this lets you cut down all of that crap in a perfect world to only get to the questions that people are excited to answer. So, for example, the best grill food, no one wanted to talk about that. Sorry, whoever submitted that question. This one, it's like, hey, did you also believe signatures were weirdly powerful as a kid? And I get to see Haley and Leo are excited to talk about signatures for some reason, but I assume they have some anecdote around here. So where it gets tricky is like, all right, I get to factor in my own little mental emoji where some of them are like, oh, what is your go-to whistle while you work tune? I think only Leo. Oh, that was you, Haley. What would your answer have been?
Right now it's Hot to Go by Chapel Roan. I can't stop singing that song.
Perfect. And that's a great podcast segment right there. But if it's like, oh, Haley wants to answer that, I don't really have a great answer. Maybe won't include that one. Sometimes something I really love is if someone, they give a lone thumbs up to it. Nobody else wants to talk about it. But then they give like a, let me break Slack here. But I think Sarah does this a lot, which I really love, is like the fire. Of like, I'm so excited to talk about this. It's like, okay, I don't communicate that, but it's really helpful.
Does she do that? I haven't noticed.
I think so, yeah. It's like, I'm so excited. And so that's helpful to be like, okay, no matter what, we can't skip this one, right? And then if I'm remembering, I usually
noted.
say, yeah.
This is helpful for me.
But then it's nice. Like, I don't think we got any 3-fers this time, but a 2-fer is pretty well a lock. A 1 is a lock if it's really interesting and I also interested in answering it. Or if it's like, oh, if they knew how this was worded, they would have all voted for this because this is a really clever question. But then I also, so I go through all these, trim the run of show so that it's just the ones people are excited to answer, and then also arrange them in a way that hopefully makes sense. And it's like, if you'll notice, it'll always open on the podcast with a question that got like 2 or 3 votes because you want everyone to have the icebreaker question, everybody jumping in together. I'll try and space it out where if there's some that are a little bit, so the ideal spot is I want to open with a video game related 2 or 3-fer. Because I think if you open with like, it's a 3-fer, but it's talking about ice cream, I could see new listeners being like, what kind of video game podcast community question is this? This sucks. But if it's like a good one that's going to highlight people's gaming knowledge, I'll try and steer towards that. And then usually if there's a game like trivia, that'll usually be towards the end, if not the very last one. I feel like that works well. Or if there's one that's like, a little more emotional. Sometimes people are writing with some sad topics, like let's talk about life. Those will also like, I love that type of stuff. Keep it maybe towards the back of the show. Again, just for those newer listeners that are like, why are they talking about death in community questions out of the gate? What is this? We'll save death for the later sections in the community questions, So that's the basic idea. And then, as you hear on the podcast, we choose what our number 1 favorite is, and then they get the iMapeIt prize. And then iMapeIt's just wonderful for, I reach out to that person via a Patreon DM and get their address and make sure it's up to date and all that stuff, and then send it over to iMapeIt. And iMapeIt ships out that prize really, really fast. I'm always amazed when I see people in the Discord be like, I got my Bear and Breakfast, game on the Switch. It's like, oh, I already shipped that out. That was like 2 weeks ago. That's wild that they already have this in hand. Or sometimes it's like a week. And so nothing makes me happier than seeing the community get those prizes so fast from iMapeIt. And they've just been an incredible partner. And it is funny to see too, like those community questions, like those posts that get a lot more questions, and sometimes it's dependent, I think, on the prize. Like everybody wants that Pokemon vinyl, so that's maybe why we had 145 questions. Other ones, it's like, maybe not so much. This will get around 90, something like that. But let's see. You're welcome to jump in whenever you want, Haley. But frequent questions we get is, if I submitted a question and it didn't get chosen, should I submit it again next week? Short answer is yes. Go for it. If you're going on like 4 submissions in a row and it's not happening, let it die. But sometimes it's not like it's a bad question. So sometimes it's one where it's like, we answered that a year ago, and maybe you don't remember, but I remember. But sometimes it's one where it's just like, it's just the wrong crew. And so if you stick with it, maybe the next time it goes up in this thumb scenario, the next week's crew will be super excited to answer that one, even if it didn't tickle anybody else's interest and all that stuff. So that's maybe the most common question we get.
Do you ever get people asking if they can like send you assets for a game or something? Like if it was an audio game or picture related or something, do you accept those, or are you like, nah, it's got to be streamlined?
No, it's
verbally
sometimes
communicated game only.
Yeah, don't put too much work into your questions, but we've done like audio quizzes that people have sent in. Like that does technically work. Yeah. So Hitmonchan says, one time Ben said Sarah was the only one to thumbs up my question, and then he moved on before she answered. That's on me. That's bad hosting. Normally I have just a mental tally of like, this was a Haley question, this was a Leo question. So if they answer it and I remember that other people didn't give a thumbs up to that question, then I'll just move on, you know? Probably too fast, but I don't want to do that thing of going around the horn and be like, okay, did you want to answer this? Did you want to answer this? Because I know that if you didn't give it a thumbs up, you probably don't care that much about it. And the more we can focus on content that people care about on the podcast, I think it's going to be better.
Where there's a question posed to a specific cohort.
Yeah.
If they thumbs it up, do you always ask it?
Yeah, for the most part. If we have time. If we're tight on time, maybe I'll skip it. Or, maybe if it's like, on second thought, run of the show, maybe that question's a little bit gonna bring things down a little bit, or it's gonna be too much of a monologue, stuff like that, then maybe I dodge it. But for the most part, I would be there. But let's see. Here's another one. Let's see. What's some good 3-fer questions? We got to get these. Where's our
last 3-fer?
What is everyone's favorite phone game of all time? There we go. I think I opened the show or the community questions segment with that one. It's like, all right, that's gaming related. There we go. I don't think we got to this 2-fer. If you had to sleep with a character body pillow, who? Haley, you're going to go with Finn back when he was a stormtrooper? Is that the answer?
Just a helmeted stormtrooper, and then you flip the other side, and it's Master Chief, so I could switch flip-flop.
That's smart. It's nice. Thank you, chat, for acknowledging how fast iMapit shipped that stuff out. But yeah, any other questions from the chat about how it all works? Hopefully that lets you know where these things are coming from and why I like our community question segment. I think they're a lot more fun than sometimes the main chunk of the show, and it's like it just feels like everyone is a little more relaxed and casual and goofy, and I love that. And so sometimes I really want to and Leo and I are kind of obsessed with this idea of if we recorded the community questions first and then the main segment second, I feel like the main segment would be better and looser and more fun. But I don't want to do that because just in case there are callbacks and stuff, I don't want to re-edit those and rearrange them and have it be confusing. So
that Disney body pillow stormtrooper thing you just said, and if this is clipped separate, everyone's going to say, why does Haley want to sleep with a stormtrooper body pillow?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Like that kind of stuff?
Now you're thinking as a producer, Haley, you got to unlock bonus pod and listen to the full episode to hear about Haley's proclivities when it comes to space Nazis. Let's see. But that's it.
The way that's phrased.
But yeah, that's it. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions about how community questions work. But I think that's it.
How long does this take you each week? This seems like a lot of work. You put a lot of thought into this.
It's fun. It's like answering community, messages via Patreon DMs every morning. Where it's like, oh, it's a real thrill to go through all this stuff. So yeah, it takes. Altogether, I don't know, an hour a week. Something like that, including the messaging and all that stuff. It's not that bad, and it's just fun. And it's fun too because I've been doing these community questions for a decade now, and so it's just fun seeing there's so many recurring themes, so much food stuff. A lot of people write in about food, and also just a lot of stuff about I have a list going that's at some point if we need to bank an episode of the Min-Max Show podcast, we're just gonna do the most frequently asked questions. Even if we've answered them before, we know that people write in about this almost every week. Let's just do it, And so there's stuff like, if you had to choose a developer to create a game based on a movie license, who would you choose and what would it be? We get that question about every week. There's just other questions like that come up again and again. Oh, do you connect playing a game with a certain album you're listening to a lot at the time? Which is it's a great question. It's fun. Throughout the last decade, I've answered it 4 different times. And it's SSX3 with Modest Mouse's Good News for People Who Love Bad News, obviously. And it's Final Fantasy VI and The Wall Disc 2. They're very obvious connections. But it's those types of things. Okay, we've answered it before in the past. Let's try and keep it hopefully fresh and new. But that's it. So, yeah. Feeling good, Haley?
Yeah, makes sense. And cool. I was part of the back end who knew most of this, but it makes even more sense now.
Sweet. But yeah, thanks so much. And again, if you enjoyed this clip, you can always unlock Bonus Pod each and every week for a true behind-the-scenes look at all things Min-Max. $5 here on Patreon. Haley does a great job. Haley, what's been your favorite episode of Bonus Pod that you've done so far?
Ooh, probably, I love them all, but I love the one I did with Sarah that inspired Thirst Council, where we were getting real thirsty about our video game crushes, and that spurred on how much additional content, like 4 or 5 hours worth, because Thirst Council went on and did a few more weeks. We definitely talked about it a few other times. That was a great one.
That was super fun. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. Thanks for having me on, Haley.
Yeah, thanks for coming on my bonus pod.
My little bonus pod.
Thank you for giving me it and then coming on later.
All right. Oh, we should probably talk about content this week, eh?
Yeah. There's some fun new show pluses this week.
Yeah, new show plus. It's a funky thing where Patreon is breaking down, and so the polls just were not working today. So I had to go through Google Forms to create this poll. But the options for new show plus this week are Chained Together Episode 2, Anything But Red Dead, where Jeff and I will play some cowboy games because I really want to play this Cowboy 30-30 game with them. Shifting Gears, where it's us playing Gears of War. I thought it'd be fun. Maybe there was some E-Day hype out there.
Based with the community, maybe.
Yep. Play like a big multiplayer match with the community. That'd be great. The community's votes say never mind. And then Vinyl Shopping with Helgeson, where our old coworker Matt Helgeson, host of Min-Max's dormant music podcast Crossfade, he and I would go to a vinyl shop and buy some records. Personally, I think that would be so awesome and really fun content. Because we had to go through Google Forms, the poll isn't visible. Should we tell people what the poll is at? We probably should, right? Might as well. But
yeah, that's a super special bonus pod exclusive behind the scenes peek.
That's it. Anything But Red Dead and Shifting Gears are both at 13.7%. Vinyl Shopping is at 30%, and Chained Together Episode 2 is at 42.6%. So unless you're at the Backstage Pass tier and you vote to save Vinyl Shopping, that won't be happening with Helgeson, and we're actually going to rip out Helgeson's voice box from his throat, like MacGruber. If you guys
should deafen him so he can never enjoy vinyls ever again.
We're really going to ruin this man unless you make this happen for New Show Plus, because I think it'd be super fun.
I got to give you credit for the first thumbnail for Chained Together. That is 10 out of 10 S tier Min-Max thumbnail. That was really good.
There was it's alarming when that many people are like, wait a minute, this thumbnail's good. It's like, wait, do you not like our normal thumbnails? But
it was more that I knew you had to tell Jeffem to lay down on the ground and take a picture and stuff. I thought of the effort that went into getting that one organized.
The dark secret is I looked it up a little while ago. Click-through rate, about average for our content. It's not like it shifted anything in any way. But there's one comment that killed me there where somebody just said, like, this is the first time it feels like you've... Oh, you see, it says... This is the most YouTube thumbnail I've ever seen you guys do. It's like, is that good or bad that we're doing YouTube thumbnails on YouTube now? It's a tough one. But.
Well, I mean, we always do reaction faces, and it's funny to be part of Min-Max now because, like, even with the last, best clips, the last quarter that Charles made.
Yeah.
My face is in the middle, and I don't know what I'm reacting to, and it's weird to be like, my own face caught my eye on my YouTube page, and I was like, why am I making that face? I had a very weird thought where I was like, what was I so excited about? I look like I'm screaming for joy.
I'm trying to remember what it was from something really recent. It wouldn't have been a reaction because the quality is too good. So I think it was a bonus pod episode. I think that I probably pulled it from. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry, Haley. You just make that face all the time.
No, I loved it. It's just, here's one for this episode.
Perfect.
For the clip.
Awesome. All right. I need to go do some other stuff, but thanks everybody for sticking with us for an extended bonus pod. Thanks for supporting the show.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
Goodbye. People are guessing that was a Thirst Council reaction. I don't think it was. It was more recent than that.
No. I was very, that's where that shifty eye meme came from that people use in the Discord now, where I'm like, because I was a little bit shy about my reveals.
there needs to be a Haley specific Welcome to Min-Max GIF. We don't have one. Like we have like Haley gifts. But
I haven't done that
like,
much. I feel like there's way more vids of other cohorts like being more physical, like, you know, like doing a little weird wacky dance or something, whereas I usually am just like, ha ha ha, not really moving that much, not much to grab from.
I don't know. Jeff hasn't moved in 3 years, and people make gifts of him for welcoming him Max. So I don't know what the hell the difference is.
That's so true, but his face is so perfect for that. He is the best face for memes and stuff. His reactions are sublime. Sublime!
Sublime! Okay, Ellie Joy Panic. Go say hello to her. She's playing Elden Ring. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
I should have given an Elden Ring Deepest Dive update, but that's all right. We can do that in